the owner of the notes and that they're entitled to foreclose on them, when in reality they attach no documents to these affidavits to show that this is even true.
Well, we're going to be following this story. Patricia, thanks for your help today. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right, while homeowners continue to struggle, so do the nation's two government-sponsored lenders, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Nearly $150 billion in taxpayer dollars, that is, went to bail out these two companies, and they continue to bleed money. Some say shut them down, others say privatize. Let's ask Bill Maloni. He is a former senior vice president for government and industry relations at Fannie Mae. Bill, welcome. Great to see you, sir.
Jerry, thank you for having me on your show.
Well, you know, we talk about Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac all the time on this show, mostly because of the taxpayer dollars at risk. Ultimately, we're supposed to be on the hook for nearly $400 billion to keep these entities going. A lot of people have a lot of criticism, say they should be shut down. You think they should continue. Why?
Well, I do, but let me first just pick up on something you said. You referred to it as a bailout. And I think a distinction has to be drawn here. The money that the federal government has put into Fannie Mae certainly hasn't bailed out anyone other than doing what the government apparently wants to do, which is to keep Fannie
Well, what would you call it if
operating.
it's not a bailout, for goodness sake?
Well, the money didn't,
I mean, this
Jerry,
is,
didn't go to their shareholders.
Come on, federal taxpayer dollars at risk here, sir.
Well, we can question whether it's at risk or not. Why are the two of them still doing about 90% of all the business in the nation? There's
but
no
not
alternative.
Profitably, is my understanding. Talk
Well,
to me
do you
about
want them to be
sir,
profitable?
Sir, talk to me about what you think the right solution is for this.
Well,
Because you've been
as
inside. You know what the corporate culture is. You understand in detail how these companies work. What do you see as the road out?
Jerry, I'll tell you as truthfully as I can, because I also understand the political process, which, as you know, is ugly. It doesn't matter who's in charge, which party's in charge. So it's just going to be ugly, and I think at the end of the day, if the decision is made by the administration and the Congress, which may change in November, that is the one or both houses of Congress, that they want a federal presence, that is the federal government somewhere involved, then Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are a far better answer than trying to do something brand new. And I'll tell you quickly why. That Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac really are two different, not two different companies, but are two different stories. Pre-subprime lending and post-subprime lending. The post-subprime lending everyone knows about, and the companies suffered, and they deserve to suffer. Horrendous mistake. Should have never purchased those garbage mortgages.
But Bill, look, even if you make the argument that it worked before the mortgage meltdown, that Fannie and Freddie played a very good role prior to the mortgage meltdown, at the same time you have to recognize that it didn't work later, that we ran into a brick wall, that they were taken advantage of almost, or they took advantage of the American people by making loans that in the end went belly up. Shouldn't the government just get out of the business? Shouldn't the government just get out of the business?
All right.
Do you
Good
believe
question,
that or no?
Except that, no, because who's going to get into the business? There are only two entities in the nation today that could theoretically, financially underwrite the size of the American mortgage market. And that's the U.S. government, which some people don't want, or some combination of the large commercial banks. But the banks don't want to lend for mortgage finance. They haven't for over a year. So when you look around to, when I say alternatives, whatever it is they produce, if indeed they go somewhere beyond a Fannie Freddie clone, it's going to have many of the same characteristics because the public wants those.
And to your point, sir, to your point, 9 in 10 home loans backed by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. It's just the way the world is. Federal government standing behind it. Now, here's what some people tell me. They say that the private sector isn't going to get in a big way until government pulls out, that the government is crowding out the private sector. Do you buy that?
No, absolutely not. And I'll give you a perfect example that goes back only 2 years. Again, remember that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have mortgage ceilings. That's where the conforming mortgages are loans that Fannie and Freddie can buy. Non-conforming are the large ones that they can't. And it was only about 2 years ago when the non-conforming loans that can't be sold to Fannie and Freddie or can't be made by Fannie and Freddie, the so-called jumbo market, died. The banks refused to lend. They didn't want the risk. Now, it's understandable in part. What's not understandable to me is how all of those banks can get so fat on TARP money and then refuse to lend it to small businesses or home borrowers. It is just beyond me. And, you know, no one is stopping those large banks right now from coming into the mortgage business.
Don't you think, though, there's so much uncertainty, and we don't have a lot of time for this, so much uncertainty in the market that this is typically the kind of time that they would pull in their horns anyway?
Absolutely, without any question about it. But then we get back to your original question. The mortgage finance system and families are not pulling in their horns relative to wanting to buy a home or needing finance. So the answer is, where do they go? Again, consumers don't deal with Fannie Mae. Consumers deal with banks and thrifts and mortgage companies who sell the loans to Fannie and Freddie.
I understand your point, sir. And I appreciate your time today. You're somebody who's been inside the belly of the beast and seen it up close, so it's interesting to hear what you say. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
If you're fired up about this or any of the issues on the program, just drop us an email to willisreport@foxbusiness.com.
Coming up on the Willis Report, has the stimulus plan spiraled out of control? We'll look into one city that feels too many rules and regulations are holding back stimulus-funded projects. Will the government program ever work as intended? We'll find out. Are you looking for employment? Well, look no further. The CareerBuilder.com president is here, and he'll tell us the top industries in need of workers. And Donald Trump booted from the Wall Street sequel. We'll tell you why the billionaire mogul didn't make the cut. We're on the case.